I want to welcome Nicholas Merton, DataDash, which has a huge following on YouTube, huge following on Twitter. He does technical analysis, talks about cryptocurrencies, and he has amazing growth. Nicholas, thank you so much for doing this.
Paul, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Okay, so let me ask you something. I've watched you grow, and you have had crazy growth, to say the least, the last couple of years. And I want to ask, what drove you? What made, first of all, what made Nicholas Merton DataDash?
It's an interesting story because unlike most things that I try to build over the past few years, I'd actually tried to do a lot of YouTube channels prior on a variety of different things. I think when I was younger, I did like gaming channels, videos with my friends. We would do skits, but none of the channels really succeeded. And after using YouTube for 11 years, since 2007, I was at a time in my life where I was going through a program where I had to present my skill set for data analytics. So there's where the name DataDash came from. And it's funny because this was the one channel that I unintentionally created. Well, I created in a sense where I didn't think anyone was going to watch it, right? The other ones I was hoping that people would watch. And this was simply for almost a business entrepreneurial case. But after I created this tutorial series that showcased my skill set of SQL or SQL and data analytics, I took that on and I wanted to showcase that I could use it in the real world. And I was thinking, I'm like, you know what? If an employer is going to watch my channel, I should probably show them a real world case. And I thought, why not do that in something that I'm already spending hours every day doing, which is analyzing cryptocurrencies and the price action of crypto. So from there on, I created 2 videos kind of talking about the news of crypto going on and analyzing the price of Bitcoin. And I noticed that the first or second video got like anywhere from like 80 to 100 views in the first day. And it threw me back because it doesn't sound like much, but for a new channel that had no subscribers, and I didn't even think people would want to watch, I was getting comments, likes, people responding. And I thought, you know what, I can keep doing this. So every day before I went off to my job and I was doing my educational work in the morning and at night, I would do 2 videos, and I get it every single day because there's just so much to talk about in crypto. And lo and behold, we grew it to be the largest channel on the cryptocurrency space. And again, completely unintentional. There's no crypto in my name, no Bitcoin. Everything was really organic. And that was the cool, beautiful part about it. That's something that I didn't intend to be something useful turned out to be a very large channel in crypto. So I'm very humbled by it. It's been very fun.
So would you say it was passion that meets trend, something that was trending, plus past experiences altogether?
Yeah, so I think that's a good point. So with me, I think the success of the channel was a few things. A lot of it, I mean, obviously I have an absolute passion for finance. Crypto really grabbed me personally because I learned about the positives and also the negatives of the financial system. I learned about 2008. That's what really grabbed me in. And because of that, I was looking for alternatives. And that's how I figured out about Bitcoin actually back in 2011 by chance. But anyways, to get more towards the question, I think there was definitely a passion there, and it's what makes it very easy for me to talk about stuff like this. If you wanted me to talk about sports, I'd falter out in about 5 minutes because I wouldn't even be able to name my favorite team for most sports. But when it came to financial markets, it came quite easy to me. For the channel itself, there was a lot of factors that helped it grow. I'm not going to lie, I got very lucky in a lot of regards. So the first one was really timing. If I would have started a crypto channel 2 years ago, like many, there's a few of those kind of legacy YouTubers who were in crypto earlier, I wouldn't have had the same growth if I did it at a different time. So I came in right as the market was starting to pick up and people were starting to hear about crypto in the mainstream. The second thing that I realized later on, I didn't intentionally do it. Again, completely unintentional. I realized later on that the fact that I was putting up 2 videos a day was really helping my channel. And along with that, I noticed, and I didn't notice this for like 2 or 3 months, that the watch time was really good as well. So I had kind of the trifecta. I had not only a great sense of timing, just again, by chance, but along with that, I realized that I was copying what's known as the Netflix model. And this is what YouTube has used for the past few years. No one knows the specific algorithm. Even Google employees don't fully understand it, but they do understand to a decent degree the variables. And I know the big ones that YouTube does care about because they're just like any other startup. They want to gather attention. They want you to have a good watch time, and just like how Netflix just presses out content. YouTube wants the same. They want you to be residual with content and to maintain that watch time. And if you can maintain attention, then you've got a valuable asset that YouTube wants. And I think that's something that I was able to provide because my videos are a little bit longer.
Yeah. Plus it's retention time, session time, and bringing people onto the platform. And you had a big Twitter following, bringing people onto YouTube, and you were rewarded from YouTube.
Yeah. Mhm.
Talking about YouTube, since you are a big YouTuber, do you watch any YouTube channels, any growth channels, or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I still, I'm kind of a nerd because a lot of people ask me what's my passion, and I'll end up just saying finance. Like, I'll kind of feel like I watch what I do for a day job, which is pretty cool. I think there's a lot of great YouTubers out there. But for years, I mean, I used to watch even some of the big people and stuff who have grown to be large channels. I was a big fan of some of the comedic channels like H3H3.
Mhm.
I know early on I used to watch the big YouTubers as well. Like when I was really young, I used to watch Smosh and stuff. But nowadays, like I watch a lot of finance-based channels, and a lot of them have their own interesting growth strategies. But above all and stuff, I think it's so cool that YouTube has this model that simply allows anyone to kind of put their content out, and there's different approaches as to how you can kind of gauge your audience and kind of work within the framework that Google provides on YouTube.
So they say a lot of people have a gimmick, Nick, and I've always noticed this. The click in the beginning. How did that happen? And it's funny because a long time ago, I didn't do it on YouTube, but I used to do it whenever I used to talk, and I cut it out. Maybe I shouldn't.
Yep.
Maybe I shouldn't have.
Everyone has like their little ticks. My friend will be like describing something, and he'll go like, so basically I was going to the store, like, and it kind of like to shorten it and like kind of get to the point. And it's like, and some people have all their different things like that. But anyways, again, going back to the unintentional nature, the snap just kind of naturally flowed in. I wanted to have some kind of signature thing I did in my videos. And again, I really walked into my first two videos thinking no one's going to want to watch this.
Yeah.
But anyways, I did the snap, and I think there was one video I didn't do the snap, and people were like, Nick, you need to do the snap. It's like, it gets me in the mindset that like you're about to jump and engage into the content and stuff. And some people give me crap for it and stuff. Some people don't like it, but I think it's good. Like, I think, I'd originally gotten the idea from my same friend I just described who had his own little take and stuff. But basically, when he would watch a fitness channel, there was this person who's basically like a power lifter and stuff. And at the end of every video, he'd like flex his arm and just like shout boom or something like that.
Right.
That was his signature thing he'd do at the end of the video. I don't know.
Guy, yes.
Yeah, it's like there's all kinds of YouTubers who do stuff like that, or they have their tagline at the end. Like mine's like, I'll see you all in the next video. Stay tuned.
Right.
Like, it's just like something simple like that. People, in a sense, they like that repetitive format, and it makes sense because it's comforting. It gets you in the mindset when you hear that, okay, this is time for me to focus on what Nick's saying or the financial markets or, whatever it is. But yeah, I would say that's helped me a lot, actually. As much as some people see it as a negative and they get turned off by it, you're always going to have people like that. You got your audience and then you've got people who don't want to listen.
Can't please them all. I actually like it both as a gimmick and a director's point of view, because you can sync the sound after in the in the graph.
Exactly.
So it's just much better. So let me ask you, what drove you? Because you need something to drive you in order to have that consistency, to have that passion, and to get where you are. What was the driving force behind you? And I'm not just talking about DataDash, the channel. I'm talking about where you are now in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more that I'm trying to do outside of just DataDash. And I think that in crypto this year, what we saw is a lot of people got incentivized to get in crypto, whether it was someone simply just as a retail investor buying a little bit of crypto, all the way up to people running their own ICOs. People really cared about the monetary gain of it. And I think that speculation and investing and trading, it's fun. It's very, very fun, not going to lie. But that's not the reason why I'm involved in cryptocurrencies. The reason I got engaged in cryptocurrencies was the moment I had read the Bitcoin white paper. And once I began to read Bitcoin's white paper, read about 2 or 3 times, it was like a slap across the face, because for years I was trying to find some type of alternative to the traditional monetary system that didn't require central control over monetary policy. So for example, in the case of Bitcoin, the supply of Bitcoin, and being able to freeze transactions, all these things that stink within the traditional financial system that we want to get rid of, that we've all had personal experiences on. I know people who have struggled with wire transfers, or their bank freezes their account for stupid reasons. Or again, in some governments like in Venezuela and in Argentina, you have rapid devaluation of the currency because of mismanagement of monetary policy. And that's a big, big issue for a lot of people. That's an issue that, for me, I like scalable, large-scale problems that have technological fixes and that can improve the lives of millions and billions of people. And cryptocurrencies are that. You have not seen something, I think we haven't seen something in finance for the past century that can compare to cryptocurrencies. It's still very early on. It's speculative. It's in the days of the BitConnect craze, and you've got a lot of scams, and it's all hype and, I'm making this amount of money. the fact of the matter is it's the same that you saw with the internet. You saw the speculative period during the dot-com era. It's the same that people saw with the boom in railway stocks in the 1800s. Historically, you're always going to have some type of explosion in valuations and hype in media because of the fact that in each cycle, there is a sense of rationale. And I think George Soros actually talks about this, but he says that there's a sense of rationale, but eventually you get split from that rationale. It's a kind of an irrational exuberance, and it splits away from the mean, and then the correction is back to reality. So that's how I kind of describe crypto. I understand fundamentally that this is going to be game changing. So to your point about where I am right now, I'm working on a project called Project Genesis. I can't talk too much on it, but the whole objective of it, I know, right? We'll have some news on it in the future, but long story short, its objective is to fix 3 core issues of the financial sector, which are the fact that monetary policy is still managed on the mainstream by central banks or central authoritators like governments. The fact that and right now in the world of lending, there are about 1.6 billion people who still don't have access to bank accounts in the unbanked world, as they're commonly referred to. And then the third part is the fact that lenders are the people actually who have money within the bank, or the stakeholders in a bank actually who have the savings, that they don't receive the majority of the benefits from the lending market. So these are really 3 issues we're trying to fix, and more than anything, bring crypto into the mainstream for the 21st century. So I know that doesn't give too much details, but those are some problems that we're trying to tackle. It's a lot to take on, but I'm self-funding it, not doing an ICO, and I'm trying to figure out how we can, again, really try to get crypto into the hands of billions rather than a few people speculating it and just, trading it on exchanges.
Hey, Paul here. Let me jump in real quick. If you're getting value so far from watching this video, then please consider subscribing down below and hitting that bell notification button. It will help me, and you get to watch more videos like this one. Thank you, and let's jump back into the video. Nice. I'm going to get in and out of crypto right now because I also want to see what drove to your success and see what mindset and what's behind it. Is that okay?
That's perfectly fine, yeah.
Perfect. So I want to ask you this. What was it like in order to get people to trust you? Because you do look young, and that must have been an issue, because I know when I was young into business, I had some issues. So how did you handle that?
Yeah, I think there's a very interesting paradigm shift that's going on right now in this world. And I learned this when I was going through Praxis, when I dropped out of college, actually, to go through a program called Praxis that got me my job in Silicon Valley. I had heard of a story about a young kid. I can't remember his name at the moment, but a young kid who actually was still in his first or second year of high school. He left public education and he went on to work at a Fortune 500 company as a developer. And I think that is a perfect example. Again, it's one scenario, but it's a perfect example of showcasing that in this day and age, anyone can do pretty much anything at any age if you prove that you've got the skills and the value proposition. And I think that people from just simply watching my channel, again, I walked into it not expecting that people would want to listen to me or think I had anything valuable to say, but I think people really pick it up if you show that you provide something valuable, but at the same time, you don't act like you're a know-it-all, like you're an Einstein. If you simply walk into something and give what you can, and someone points out, hey, you got that wrong, or hey, you made a call on something that's wrong, own up to it. So many people, I think in this day and age, we like to live in echo chambers, and we like to censor people. We like to block people out. And I think that's kind of been created by social media more than anything. We've learned to not take criticism and socialize. I own up to it, and I'm honest about people. I'm actually the first usually to point something out like that. I'll usually mention, hey, I made a wrong call on this, guys. Here's what I learned from it. Take this information and help to improve your own trading and investing. And I also provided a lot of helpful content. If you're doing a specific topic that is very knowledge heavy and uses a lot of advanced terminology like finance does, that's something that's hard to digest for people and you think you're really good at it, showcase it, help people get those basics so they have a framework to know, okay, this person's taught me my fundamentals. I can continue to trust them when they talk about this or that. And, it's relatable to pretty much any topic. I think that's how I was able to break that barrier because I am quite young. I'm not, you can probably tell by my looks and stuff, I'm not crazy old or anything, but that's the big thing is that it's just building a track record. Everything is trust-based.
This is great. This is great. I bet you that young kid that went to Silicon Valley got some advice. Don't do it. Stay in school. It's important. Don't throw your life away.
That's the thing.
Making $1 million doesn't mean
It's interesting, because years ago, a college, I don't want to talk too negative on college, because I think that there are some degrees that obviously still have to go through
Of
the
course.
university.
Of
And
course.
I met great people and I had some cool experiences at the university, but I left after pretty much my freshman year because I realized that I was doing fine. I had a 3.5 GPA and I was doing a double major in business with a concentration in finance. But the thing about it is just I wasn't growing. I was spending a lot of money, and I wasn't, as much as I met some great people, I wasn't surrounding myself with people who 24/7 were willing to, who not only had their own passions, but were willing to just help you.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a good example of my kind of mindset and who I want to surround myself with. When I went from my public university, there was a Facebook group that everyone in the class could, as a part of my class for 2020 and stuff, they could be a part of. They ended up like not being very active as a group. So like if I went on there and said, hey, I need help with this like piece of homework that I have, can someone help me, or can someone help me find where to go at the specific location of the university? I'd be lucky if I got one or two responses. And that was tens of thousands of students.
Yeah.
And then the shocking reality was when I got into Praxis, which I highly recommend for those of you out there who are kind of the alternative types to definitely look into. I got into this group for Praxis, and at the time they only had 200 students ever admitted into the school, 200 alumni or students. And when I would ask for a question like building out our own website, which was one of our requirements for Praxis to brand ourselves, I had like 3 or 4 people instantly when I would make a post within an hour or two who want to help me. Like that was the difference right there in regards to kind of the help that you would get. So I think that played a huge, huge, huge role in not only, helping me get confident that I was in the right position, as you were mentioning, to leave it all, to leave university and to take that leap to go all the way from the East Coast, which is where I live right now, and go work in Silicon Valley. And I would still be working with the startup I was with. It was a fantastic experience. It's just that I was balancing that on the YouTube channel, and it was a very hard decision to make. But man, what an awesome opportunity. And this past year or two has been an absolute change for me. And it's because I've been able to make those risks and take those challenges on.
Yeah. And talking about, I haven't even finished high school, to be quite honest. I was kicked out a couple of times. But the thing is, I don't think, do you agree that drop out of college, drop out of high school, it's a new trend going on? Do you think it's for everybody? Because I don't think everyone's cut out to be entrepreneurs or want to be entrepreneurs.
Yes. So I always joke in a sense, because there's very much a sense that it's kind of oversaturated. Like it's like there's a lot of people I think in the kind of entrepreneur space who tell you don't go to college. And we always joke about it. We pretend, like I joke with my friends that I'm having a TED talk and be like, I am a college dropout. Like it's kind of generic, right? It shouldn't be so much a badge that I think people wear unless you do something valuable. Just like how going to college isn't really much unless you prove the value that it generates for you. So what I say is that, yes, there's a lot of people who actually prefer more structure and they need someone to kind of guide them. And it might be that their specific field requires that kind of infrastructure, like a more medical degrees, and then also law, for example. Those are probably the 2 examples that get brought up. So of course, no, not everyone's built to be a college dropout. In Praxis, that program I went to, there's a reason only 200 to 300 kids have gone to Praxis. It's because they're the people who cannot stop thinking about business. I know that 95 to 98% of my friends, as much as they were genuine great people, they're not like me in the sense of being wired around business. They have their own traits and features that they're optimal in, or their own things that they like. They might like sports. Again, not a sports guy myself, so I wouldn't be able to keep up with something like that. And it doesn't mean, I'm not saying in any way that I'm better than anyone. It's just that we simply have differences in personality types. So I think what you're gonna find is not so much everyone dropping out of college. Universities are gonna become much less valuable, and I think over time, people aren't going to see it as the standard, so the prices will drop dramatically. But you're going to get alternative types. I think trade schools are making a rebound. You've also got a rebound as well in these different Praxis type education systems that will give you an entry point, a very fast entry point into very high skill, in demand jobs. I've seen very similar schools that do things for data analytics, which is what I was focusing in, and data science fields, where those 2 job titles are going to offer millions of jobs, and good paying jobs at that. So that's the kind of stuff I see is the fast track alternatives for people who just don't do well in the college system, or their major degree isn't worth much in the college
Yeah.
system. It's not worth putting into a 4-year curriculum.
Do you agree with following your passion, or do you not agree with that?
I have a very middle ground view with passions. So for example, what I do with my channel, I'm very fortunate. I found a way to monetize my passion in this case. Like, so my full-time income is from my YouTube channel and the income streams that I build around it. I'm not making a ton of money, but it's really nice to be able to do something that puts you in an area where you're financially secure and you get to do something you love. My recommendation to people is that if they want to start up a business or they want to start some kind of venture, I had created a variety of things beforehand. Many of them failed, but the best thing to do is to find something that provides that financial security first and foremost. And then, just like how you have money for investing, set aside a fund of money on the side. And I know not everyone can afford this, but try to save money on the side and put that towards time to educate yourself and get the resources that you need to build out that business. There's so many ways that you can build a business, whether it's an app, a website. A lot of it's digital nowadays, and it's very low cost, very low expenditure. Or reaching out to angel investors. I almost got an angel investment at I think I was 18 at the time. And I actually pitched my first startup that I was going to create a beverage startup. And that experience of just talking to angel investor, what an angel investor made me realize that there's a lot of people who want to invest in great ideas. In this day and age, you don't need to take the risk of taking a loan out from a bank. You don't need to have $1 million to start up a business, because you're not probably building a manufacturing plant or some kind of serious, what people visualize as a business. You can be building something that's a brand and selling that brand in some way. Again, there's all types of models. So I believe chase your passions when you can afford it in that case. And if you can't, work towards getting to a position where you can. That's what I'd say.
Yeah. And also make sure you sell yourself. People don't invest just in idea. Mostly they invest in the implementation, the execution, and you. And I think that's something I just wanted to throw that out there, because a lot of people just chase the next idea, but they don't understand that it's people invest in you, in your brand, or in what they expect you to do with this idea.
Exactly.
Let me ask you something. They say you need to fail in order to succeed. How do you push through failure?
Yeah, so I actually used to have a big issue with that, I think, as most people do, especially at a younger age. I was during the time I was creating my beverage startup, and before that, before I created my beverage startup, I had a lot of ideas, probably well over a dozen. I would do graphic design at the time, and I generate all these logos, and I'd be like, "Oh, I could create this app that does this function." And I think a lot of the ideas were awesome and could be marketable, and I could have executed on them. But I would get to the point where I'm like, all right, I need to learn how to program. So I would open up Code Academy and I tried to learn a language, and literally within about a day, I'd just be like, I'd be at a roadblock in a sense where I'd be like, I don't know how to do this. And then I would just stop, and then I move on to the next idea, and then I would get roadblocked and stop. And what I learned after a while is I had wasted so much time getting stuck by these roadblocks. And I realized, hold on, before I stop, if I get stuck, I do not need to build the habit of going on to the next thing. I need to try my best to see if I can keep pushing forward. And I did that with my beverage startup. It was the final breakthrough where I actually had something that I stuck to it. And it took a little bit longer. It took a little bit personal struggle and critical thinking. But I was able to go from just popping out different ideas and never executing on them to, at the age of 18, saying that I had a product-ready concept for market. I already had a signed agreement from a beverage formulating company to go ahead and formulate the flavors for my beverage. I was able to say that I pitched to an angel investor, and that I also trademarked for a beverage brand. Wow. And I can tell you, I appreciate it. I mean, the thing is, what I learned from that, honestly, if you really think about it on a visual sense, it's still just an idea. I never brought it to market. I didn't complete it. It was still considered a failure in that case. But the interesting thing about that is that if I wouldn't have done that, if I wouldn't have stuck to it, I wouldn't have gotten into Praxis. And with Praxis, that was the entry point to me working in Silicon Valley and creating my YouTube channel. So failures eventually, they help build your skill set. I know it's kind of generic, like everyone kind of says that in the motivational space, but you're absolutely right. Failure is necessary in that sense, to where you need to get the skills from it. You learn how to build relationships and how to, like you said, sell your idea. For my beverage ideas, while you're mentioning the point of selling yourself and your story, I remember Karen, the lady I was talking to, who's the angel investor I pitched to, she said that, Nick, a big reason why I could see you succeeding is you're young and you've got a story to it. Like there was a really big moral message behind the beverage. And that's what people want to buy. In this day and age, they don't want to buy something because they're told in a marketing campaign 10 times that you're going to love it, like Coca-Cola used to do. It's because, you know, you can resonate with the moral ethics or the story behind it. And that's really what sold Apple and all these massive companies over the past few years.
Are you going to get into the beverage thing one day, like just do it and get back?
Maybe. I still have the idea. I still think it's a relevant concept, as a lot of the ideas I have, you know, chugged back into my head and stuff. I'm like holding it back. Crypto is my main focus right now, but after I, you know, do Project Genesis and maybe after crypto slows down a little bit, yeah, maybe I'll definitely attack that idea still. Cause I think the market, I think it's good that I didn't actually do it then, because I don't think the timing for the market for what type of beverage I was creating is then. I think it'll be in the next few years, but we'll have to see.
When you do, give me a call.
Yes, definitely.
So Nick, what does success mean to you?
I think people in the West generally see success in a dollar value, and I don't think that's really wrong. I mean, if you like material values, or if you you know, you want to be financially secure, there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, success more than anything is leaving some sort of impact and having a legacy. I really liked, you know, I was reading a book on the history of money, and I can't remember the specific names and the specific civilizations. That's one thing, I'm terrible about names. But basically, they were defining in the beginning chapter about how money, before the world of money, you could try to bribe someone in some way, shape, or form. Some of the gladiators of the olden days, but they didn't care about anything else. They wanted to go for the kill. That's what they lived for. Now, as crazy and as weird as that sounds, like, you know, it's interesting. It brings up a point that in the olden age, like I think through civilization, there are those who really care about things for moral reasons, or they care because they leave a legacy of some sort. And that for me is what's always kind of led to my happiness. It's always making sure that I'm doing something for someone else. Money, again, money tends to come when you're not thinking about earning money and you're thinking about doing something cool. Like Elon Musk, like you think Elon Musk, you know, goes every day thinking, oh, how can I make Tesla stock go up? You know, he's digging holes in the ground. He's trying to bring rockets to space, get people on Mars. You know, pushing, him and his brother pushed in regards to residential solar, Tesla automotive, amazing stories that go along with just one entrepreneur. But it's the same with like people like Bezos as well. Bezos doesn't think about how can I push up Amazon stock. He thinks, how can I expand my business and build an empire? You know, that's the mindset you have to have. And I think money comes with it. So success is more than anything chasing the creation of things that you want to see or building a better you.
Do you think anybody can succeed in life? Anybody?
Yeah.
The person watching right now.
Yeah. I think it's a good question. You know, the thing you mentioned earlier that's very true is that I think a lot of people watch the kind of Gary V's of the world and a lot of these people, and they watch them for a short period of time and think, man, I need to be an entrepreneur. Yeah. And it's like, you don't have to be an entrepreneur. Some people, like I said, and even if you say you want to, but you can't attain it, it's no big deal. Like, it's like, you don't have to be a Bill Gates to be special in this world. Like, you can just be someone who contributes in some way. If you help with a local charity, you've helped more than most people in the world. Most people are very, I mean, I wouldn't say most people, but a lot of people in this world are selfish and just looking for their own self-interest. And they're not happy, even though they're millionaires or entrepreneurs. But if you can find a way where you fit in this world and you provide value for someone, that's the big thing. I think the big thing, though, in regards to success is you have to be able to be happy yourself, be able to think for yourself, provide for yourself, and then from there, taking on that value that you've been able to find yourself and bringing it to others by teaching people, providing financial support for ideas, and just building other people up and contributing. That's where I think you can find success. It's again, it's not everyone's going to be an entrepreneur. If we were all entrepreneurs, that would be a lot of businesses in the world. So
of course.
That's why most businesses fail. So, but yes, I know that it's kind of a hard question to answer, but I believe you can find success, and it just depends what you value as success.
Okay. Now, do you think anybody can succeed in crypto, whether it's trading or anything else? And let's start with trading. Do you think anybody can succeed to become a crypto trader?
No. And the reason I say that is because crypto, as much as it is a market where you're much more likely, I think, in the long term, even as a trader, to probably turn a profit, and especially when it's in a bull market. Um, the thing is, I've learned from traditional markets and from myself, it took time to become an actual trader. Most people don't have the dedication to become a trader. That's not an insult. I'm not talking down to anyone. It's just like how I'm not a professional tennis player. You know, I don't have the time and dedication to spend every single waking morning going out and hitting a ball with a tennis racket. There are some people who do that. But for me, I found an absolute passion. I thrived for financial markets. So for me, it was very simple to build a routine and become a better trader over time. And there's still some that are way better than me. But to be profitable in trading, the reason I say most people can't be good traders is because if you're going to be a trader, you need to be able to turn a bigger return than you would simply investing. So what I always tell people to do is, if you want to try trading, nothing wrong with that. I think everyone should try everything once if they really want to. The thing I recommend they do, though, is that whatever trading strategy you take, start off with a small amount of money, say anywhere from maybe $100 to $500, and on the side, match a portfolio, just a simple tracker, a portfolio tracker. You can find many of these online that would track what you would hold long term, and see if you can outpace your long-term portfolio with your trading portfolio. If you cannot do that consistently, you probably don't want to put the time and effort in and all the extra trading fees into becoming a trader. It's not worth it. If you can just long-term invest and do great on crypto, which I think, again, I'm not recommending anyone do that. You have to determine it for yourself. But, if you do feel that cryptocurrencies are going to become valuable and a worldwide currency class that is going to be taking crypto from $200 billion to tens of trillions, then long-term investing probably will work for a lot of people in that case. So it's about assessing it, doing a little bit of testing yourself and seeing if you are a personality type that can stay disciplined and cut out emotion, which is the biggest part of trading, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, it's funny. I was laughing earlier on a little bit. I was trying not to laugh out loud because I used to teach Forex for a while. I was a salesman.
Yeah.
I had to learn. And I got into crypto trading. And I made a little bit of money. I was really happy. Everyone does in the bull market, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Until I realized that maybe selling that Ethereum and that big bag of Litecoin for other coins wasn't such a good idea when I did. And I did the math, and I'm like, oh my God, why didn't I just hold? And then I looked at myself. I'm like, Paul, you know what? You're not a good trader. Just maybe swing trade now that you saw how it worked for a year or two, but that's it. And that's when it's not, I was too emotional. I was on Blockfolio every night like this. My girlfriend thought I was cheating on her. I was waking up in sweats, having dreams of the market going up and down. And
Who's this Bitcoin you're talking about? It's just like,
oh my God. It was crazy. It was crazy.
Just to your point, I want to say something. I absolutely agree with you, and I want to keep hearing about it. I just want to say, you said, for example, you were trading and stuff, and like you realized you would have just done better holding. Everyone is a genius in a bull market.
Yeah,
that's a point to bring up. Everyone's like, look at how much I'm making as a trader, and it's like, well, what would you do? What would it be like if you just held, right? So I think that's an awesome personal story in that case. I
was humble enough to be aware of that. I used to be on Twitter saying, let's see how you guys do in the bear market. I just didn't figure that I wasn't a good trader even in the bull market. And it's funny because in crypto and in Bitcoin, it's kind of like you have one Bitcoin, like, okay, I have 15,000 euros right now. Should I take this 10,000 euros or should I take it now at 17,000? Maybe, and then the more you talk, the more it goes up and down. Yeah, it's hard not to be emotional. It's kind of like you run to the computer, try and sell, and run back after a little bit. I was waking up at night. It was really bad for my life. And that's when I'm like, swing trade whenever you see clear signals. And that's
the best. I think that's always been the best.
And I made more money, Nicholas. I got into my business again and I made more money.
That's a good thing. Whatever makes most money and then also takes the least amount of stress to do is the best thing in regards to business and finance. If it's opening up a business and it's low stress and low maintenance for you and you make a decent profit, maybe not 5% extra, but if this less stress is more valuable, then that's the way to go. I've always kind of believed in that, like 80-20 principle. I think that was a principle really put forward by, I'm trying to think of his name right now. He's the podcast host, 4 Hour Work Week. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'm trying to think of his name right now. But anyways, yeah, so I think that's a good way to go. And swing trading I've seen has worked a better for not only myself, which is what I tend to do. I rarely day trade, only in the peak of a bull market. But for swing trading, that's really the method that I see works for most people.
Yeah. So let me ask you, what does it actually take to succeed? And you probably touched on this already, but what does it actually take to succeed in this field?
In the field of cryptocurrencies, understanding real value. So most people who have speculated on cryptocurrencies, I'd say, don't either understand blockchain or why it's really valuable, right? You know, it's like every other buzzword out there, AI and cloud computing. Why are blockchain and cryptocurrencies very fascinating? And it's because with a proper consensus mechanism or a proper sense of game theory application, you can make blockchains or this architecture for a distributed system become a very powerful tool to either A, remove trust of third parties that don't need to be there, or sometimes remove the inefficiency of a third party or middleman, and B, be able to communicate and exchange information peer-to-peer across the world, censorship resistant, without any third party needing to approve that transaction.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, I think a lot of people look at those variables, even those who understand it, and they've tried to apply it in a lot of applications that might see a little bit of value. But really, what I believe, I think is going to pay out, and it has paid out for those who invested in Bitcoin very early on and Litecoin and all these currency plays. For those who understand that money, above all, needs these factors, not just enterprise solutions, maybe, but money is really what really needs this. If you come to realize that, I think you'll succeed in this space, and you'll look towards more of the currency plays rather than utility tokens that are highly speculative, as well as even some of the protocols. You know, again, the idea of decentralized applications, these applications that run at a distributed architecture, they're not only very hard to scale to the throughput that they need, but it's also a question of, do they really need to be distributed, right? Like I don't like Facebook, and I don't like, you know, a lot of the other social media platforms sometimes, but they provide a really good service and it's very efficient. And other competitors can come to compete with them and build my trust over Facebook or other applications. And that happens over time. It's usually over a period of almost a decade and stuff. We've seen that with social media sites come and go. But in regards to, you know, some of these ideas that have come in the crypto space, I think they're noble and they're good for things that, again, require those necessities of censorship resistance, right? You know, there's been some censorship in social media and media in general. Do we need a social media platform that can provide censorship resistance? Do enough people care for that? You know, there might be a niche group who cares about it, but maybe the broader picture doesn't really care, isn't affected by it. So talking on a business sense, on a moral sense, I think the blockchain ecosystem is awesome. But the failure that many people make is that they get caught up trying to fix issues that don't exist for the majority of people. Exactly. And they invest tens of millions of dollars into the process of it as a group collective. And I don't think that that's a very valuable way to invest. I think the real investment comes in what people are going to need. I look at emerging markets like Venezuela and Argentina, that where their base currency, their store of value, has been diminished and they can't switch to the dollar. So they need something that's censorship resistant and that they can use for commerce. I haven't seen anything like that other than for peer-to-peer digital currencies like Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dash, things like that. So I'd say, if you really want my opinion, again, it's only that, to focus on the currency plays. That's always been my focus.
Right. Did you have any mentors, and do you think mentors are important, and did you have any mentors in life?
I'd say virtual mentors, people who I looked up to. Not so much a direct mentor. I've been very thankful in my life to have a lot of people who've shown me the way to learning a lot of different things. I got interested in trading. I looked back on it and I got interested in trading because my dad did trading on E-Trade for years. I remember when I was a child, I was crawling on the ground and I'd look up and see the candlesticks moving up and down on E-Trade during the early 2000s. And I was just like, oh, that's so cool. Like, you know, and I didn't know how to siphon it, but I learned later on about financial markets. You know, one person, I don't mean to be too political in this case, but I learned about Ron Paul when I was very young. And Ron Paul was my entry into learning about politics and foreign policy and economics. And I went on to just so many different points of view and everything, to where I couldn't really name one person. But I think the ability to be open-minded and to learn the skill of hearing contrarian views, things that you disagree with, maybe not even popular opinions. That was what was able for me to really start critically thinking and approaching the world in a much better way, to where I'm not only improved my skill set, but I know how to handle criticism. I know how to take on challenges and really build a better version of myself in that case.
Mm-hmm. You know, they say there's, and I'm going to go back into crypto real quick, because they say there's news for the masses and news for the classes. And crypto is very driven by news and fundamentals, and it makes you wonder what's going on with that.
Yeah. In a market that's so speculative and so fast moving, having information can be very valuable. And it's hard for an average retail investor to keep up. Well, maybe with 10 or 20 stocks that might be trending, it's quite easy for maybe to do that. But to keep up with hundreds of new cryptocurrencies coming out every month, not so much, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the thing is, what's nice is that you learn, I think, again, we were talking about reputation earlier and like why people watch my channel and stuff. The big thing I try to do for people is I've tried to hopefully share the narrative that, guys, I really care about giving you as much information as I can. If I know something, I'm going to let you know. And that's helped, I think, the channel grow a lot. And I think people value that because it's hard to get that kind of information. There are some people out there who obviously have exclusive information. That's not so much now, if you do insider trading, for example, that's illegal. But if someone just knows something because they work in the project or they work with them, yeah, it can give them an advantage.
Yeah.
My favorite thing to do is, more than anything, to just simply take the time and effort, if you really care about it in these early days as a trader, to build out your network, to build relations with the projects that you're interested in, to build relations with Discord channels and Telegrams, and keep in the know with sources that have a good reputation. Again, it's all about building your own network. You're never going to be able to capture everything, but you can at least build the best network possible that gives you the best resources when they're available in that case.
Nice. What does a typical day look like for you?
Get up in the morning. I generally work on creating a video first if there's something I want to talk about or something I want to discuss. After that, I go ahead and I edit the video and render it and upload it. And as I'm doing that, I start getting prepared to work, at least nowadays, on Project Genesis, my project that I'm currently self-funding. And from there, I also talk over with my teammate and stuff on not only email communications, but also I do potential consulting sessions. I've done one advisory role, for example. Sometimes we do calls there. And outside of that as well, we just try to do anything, maybe, for example, scheduling for conferences. So I keep relatively busy, but I also find some good free time, again, because I'm able to mechanize my process of producing content. I think well ahead the night before what I want to talk about, unless something's just happened the morning of. And I come in with a strategy. One thing that I'll say that I try to do at the end of the day, I've been off and on a little bit as of recent because I've been busy and traveling. But one thing that I recommend to people that I think is very underestimated is doing some form of meditation. And I think that, again, meditation is good because in today's world, we are so overly stimulated by everything going on. And it's hard to kind of get in a mindset where you can come in with a strategy and feel like you have a game plan. Many people feel like they're sitting at their computer and they'll end up typing Facebook because they didn't mean to type Facebook, but they just it's just a cue habit. Your brain's just going to find something to do.
Yeah.
But if you think well ahead the night before and get a good night's rest, you can wake up and you'll be in that mindset of, okay, I'm going to do this first, then this and this. And it's like a chronological order, and your day will become so much more valuable. So that's a big part of how I kind of do things. And if I tend to find if I don't do that, it's not as productive as a day. I have some bad days as well, but
Yeah, of course. I actually tend to do the same thing. I try to vision the day the night before, which goes on to the next question. Do you have any morning habits and morning rituals?
I got to have a shower and I got to eat a good breakfast. I know a lot of people. I know, for example, I'm trying to think of his name right now. I know there's a lot of big entrepreneurs who have some kind of interesting ritual and stuff. But at the moment, I don't have anything too out there. My main ritual is to make sure that I'm comfortable. And before I actually start anything, I'll tell you one thing that I don't do. I don't check my phone. I keep my phone away until I get done with my video. So I've at least gotten something done before I get bogged down with something that can kind of take over my mind, which is managing messages and notifications. And I know that there's nothing I'm going to have to really worry about the morning of and stuff. I can always get back to it later.
Mm.
So unless you have that urgency, try to stay away from your phone. And that was, I think Simone, I'm trying to think of his name right now. Simone basically is one of these big motivational speakers. And he did bring up a good point that I actually liked. And people were saying, oh, but I need my phone in my room, so I have my alarm, right? And he's like, just go out and buy a $10 alarm. Like, I was like, that's so true, right? Like I think we put so much pressure on our phones, to be with us 24/7, and you don't really need that. Like, I don't like the presence that we've set where we have to be connected 24/7. So that's a big thing that I try to do in the morning, staying away from the phone unless I need to communicate.
That is something I want to start. I want to get my phone outside my bedroom from now on. First of all, because of Blockfolio. Second of all, I work 24/7 hours in the sense that a lot of my meetings take place at night because I work a lot with America. I work a lot with different countries, and it's kind of like a constant 24/7 hour thing. And the last few months, I think I'm getting insomnia. I do not sleep at night. I'm always checking my phone. And it's actually becoming a problem, and I have to decide what I'm going to do with that. So it sounds funny, but it's very serious.
Yeah.
Like I've noticed I'm tired throughout the whole day and everything, and I think you have a good point on that. Let me ask you, Nicholas, advice for people struggling right now.
In regards to crypto or just in general?
Let's start with crypto, then in general.
That's a good point. With crypto right now, I would assume most people are taking the position of long-term investing. And I would tell them that, again, I've already mentioned how I like currency plays personally, but outside of that, even if you have your utility tokens or your protocols that you like, put all that aside. The thing I would say more than anything is that, again, we have to talk about the scale of this space. So if you're in this for the long term, if you're really investing, you have to understand why you're investing in something. Many people got in because they just speculated, and that's fine. Sometimes you get caught in that. But I tell you that if you're in good projects that have good developers, good code, and you learn how to analyze and fundamentally realize the value behind those networks, that again, this space is so small. We're only at $200 billion in valuation. If this even becomes the size of gold markets, for example, as a total market, gold is around a $7 trillion market.
Yeah.
That's a massive room of growth. And if we even go past that and replace or reach half the value of currency markets, the lower band of estimate, currency markets across the world estimated to be anywhere from 84 to $200 trillion. It's kind of a big gap. It depends on what money supply you factor. But even if you take the lowball estimate of 84, split that in half, 42 billion. If we could get to 42 billion, crypto is already going to 200x from the point on where we are now. So if you pick the good projects, if you play it safe, you can still probably do very well in this space if crypto does reach mainstream adoption and is used as a store of value, but also as a peer-to-peer payment solution. Again, it's a little bit hypothetical, but I think in that grand scheme of things, even if you reached a fraction of what we just discussed, you've still got an investment potential in that case. So I would say if that's on your mind, the kind of slow down in crypto markets, don't let it get you down. That's why I'm sticking in this space. It's why I'm not, ditching on crypto. I believe in this movement more than anything. So I'm very excited to see it come to fruition over time. And
I'm sorry.
No. Your next question, was it generally about just people in general who are struggling?
In life in general, yes.
That's a good question. That's something much more broad. In regards to struggling in life, I've had moments like that. I was mentioning earlier. I'll be very thankful about something. I know a lot of people they deal with stress, anxiety, depression, all kinds of stuff. And it could be caused from their day job or their love life or whatever. I've been very thankful. In my life, I haven't struggled with those things personally. So I can't really attest to that. But I will say this, for those who are struggling with those things, more than anything, I've learned that I went from being kind of a neutral kind of happy in my life, just kind of like going in day by day, kind of going through the repetitive course of things. I found that my happiness was really when I started learning about ambitious things that could provide value or build value for others. And I know that sounds very generic, so I'll take some time to explain it. What I mean by that more than anything is that whatever you spend your time doing, not only make it valuable, but make sure that whatever you're doing will eventually create something that is going to impact someone else's life. Cryptocurrencies, the reason I'm passionate about it, yeah, sure, I can invest and trade and speculate in it and make some money. I don't really care so much about that. There's not enough things in the world that I want to spend money on. I'm very frugal. More than anything, I'd like to see, like a lot of investors actually end up wanting to see, they want to see progressional change in the world and finding ways where you can bring that change. So in my case, I'm doing that with Project Genesis. I'm really excited about it. I'm not looking to make much money with it, but it's like, hey, if I could help bring cryptocurrency to the mainstream and I could see people using peer-to-peer digital currency, that is going to make me extremely excited. And the same went, for example, when I was creating my beverage startup. The whole beverage startup was actually tied around helping people who struggle with day-to-day stress or anxiety. It was a relaxation beverage, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was an alternative to energy drinks, because I saw so many people throughout high school and through university who were struggling with stress and anxiety. And I thought, you know what, if I could just build a product that on a day-to-day basis someone could turn to in the moment when they need to be calm, when they need to focus in on something, or they're giving that big presentation at work, that they could turn to and they could drink and it would make them feel better. That right there gave me enough drive to do all those 4 things I listed earlier, to get the trademark file, to pitch to investors. It gave me so much unfound confidence that I never had, and it helped me get better and learn from my mistakes, because I realized that there wasn't enough time to pamper myself and say, oh, no, I don't want to face this challenge, or, oh, no, I don't want to take that criticism. I learned to man up and really evolve past those kind of roadblocks that I had before. So if you find yourself struggling, give yourself a challenge to chase. And I can tell you, you will get in a better state of mind, and you'll face the world in a much better way. But again, I think for a lot of struggles that people face, I mean, I might not be able to relate to it, but hopefully that helps in some regard.
Nice. So you have a YouTube channel, you're on Twitter, you have a following. What are some questions you wished people would ask you?
It's interesting. With crypto specifically, most people tend to only ask me about, Nick, what do you think about this project? What do you think about this project? I would like people to be focusing more on how do we expand the space, right? And it's kind of interesting. Sadly, focusing in on our little niche projects and not collaborating, not talking with one another about how we expand the space, and only focusing on investment is actually very counterproductive for crypto, because it's very short term. If we were to spend our time asking questions of, hey, Nick, how can I get crypto in the hands of 100 of my friends by tomorrow? That's going to help adoption much faster. No one ever asks about that, though, because it's as a system, there's nothing in place. There's no incentive structure for people to do that. And until we have cryptocurrency networks like that incentivize helping to get adoption and getting people on board, I don't think we're going to see mainstream adoption. And I think that people are going to continue to just simply speculate on it. We need to ask those kind of questions. How can I get the word out? How can I give a little bit of crypto to people, and get them started? And that's really what I wish people would ask more often. It might be, again, a little ideal in a sense, and maybe a little bit too, in a sense, I'm trying to think of a word to describe it. I guess in a sense, kind of morally ethical, but above all, I think that's really actually something I'd like to see more, because I've got some great ideas for it.
And also, I think people should do a little bit more research, because I just remembered right now, I forgot all about this. I saw a tweet where you were talking about Roger Ver. Was it you? And everybody, yeah, it was you, right? And people attacked that. And, they're all talking negative about Roger Ver, which I understand why they may do that. But if you really research Roger Ver, it's like, oh, he went to prison. Why did he go to prison? People do not see this, and it's a shame. Actually, it's a shame. And also how, your biased or your opinion blinds you to what good the other person can also bring. Not just Bitcoin. Forget Bitcoin for a second, and Bitcoin Cash, or whatever you want to call it. But actually, how did he succeed? He did mirror. He went up. He was an entrepreneur. He went against the government, which is why actually he got caught for illegal fireworks, and all, even though everyone had fireworks, right? And they called him on that. What did he actually do? How he fought through it? And people don't research, and it's a shame. I don't think your beliefs should cloud your vision, if that makes sense.
To that point about Roger, I can even tell you, take someone who's the complete opposite of Roger on viewpoints for Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, very controversial topic in crypto.
Yeah.
Jimmy Song, even though they've had their fallout and stuff, they still consider themselves friends. And that was a very interesting thing when they even had a fallout. They mentioned that, like, I've been a long time friend with Roger. So what does that tell you? It tells you that even though you have a disagreement with someone, or maybe, for example, God, if you have a disagreeing political beliefs, or if you have disagreeing views on the world and how it should operate, that should never shut you out from building relations from people and learning. Because I can tell you, if I would have done that to everyone I disagreed with, or had a hunch that I might not agree with initially, I would have never evolved to being able to, and entrepreneurially, I would have never gotten to the position I'm in right now. But as well, being as open-minded and as happy as I am, I think a lot of people shut things out. It's a very survival-based mechanism. It's cognitive dissonance, generally speaking, psychologically. But unless you learn to take criticism, to hear different viewpoints, you will never become a better, I think, honestly, a better person, honestly. That is really how you evolve, is being able to take harsh, truthful facts from other people or perspectives and growing with it and seeing what you agree and disagree with. And if you disagree, hell, there's a lot you can still find in common with one another. And Roger specifically on that case, I don't want to talk too much on it, but yeah, Roger has done much more than many people who've come into the space over the past few years and are criticizing him, and they judge him off of a few small things. Yeah, Roger has some flaws to him, but
everyone does, right?
Yeah, everyone does. And it's like, again, I've made mistakes myself. Everyone has in this space. It's a very fast-paced, evolving space, and we're humans. Humans tend to make mistakes. It's about what they do after those mistakes and owning up to them. And Roger's owned up to a lot of his previous mistakes, but people don't take the time to do that. They just pester on.
Yeah, and just to clarify, just because this is crypto and this is YouTube, and there might be some comment section blow up one day. I actually hold Bitcoin. I like Bitcoin more than Bitcoin Cash, and I'll call it Bitcoin Cash out of respect, because whether we agree or not, it's a respect thing. But what I wanted to get to with this discussion is I've noticed a lot of hostility and cult-like behavior, not only in cryptocurrency, Nicholas. Let me explain. Atheism has become a religion. They're attacking, non-believers are attacking believers and putting it down a lot, and they don't realize it. Veganism has come to the point where it's almost, I would not be surprised if I see vegans with submachine guns going around killing people pretty soon. And there's just so much hate going on, and this is like a cult-like hostility action. Cryptocurrency on Twitter. Everyone is attacking everyone, and it's insane. And why do you think that is? And how can we stop this, Nicholas, if we need to do anything at all?
Yeah, I mean, that even goes, you mentioned specific things like specific religious beliefs, moral beliefs like dieting in regards to veganism, the kind of, I would say, collectivism, and then also more tribalism in crypto. And even in America, I think more than anything, I mean, if you know American politics, we're quite divided right now. The whole thing about it right now, a lot of it has to do with, I would say, two issues have really caused it. And I'll also talk about the symptoms. So the causes are really social media. And then also, I would say, especially in the West, bad parenting. I hate to say it. I've been very fortunate. I've had great parents, and they had always, luckily, I was pretty quick to realize that good manners and just being respectful, even if you disagree with someone, made me feel better as a person, like saying thank you and please. I didn't have to be taught that. I just kind of came naturally. It felt good to do that or hold the door for someone. And the same went with social skills, like just knowing how to respect someone. And even if someone's disrespectful to you, to be able to walk away from the situation. Social media as well has built hostility, because Facebook, how it works is that it's tailoring content consistently for you, right? It's trying to give you the content that you want to see. So when it comes to things like politics, or like you mentioned, veganism or religious beliefs, if I'm an atheist, or if I'm a Christian, or I'm a Muslim, or whatever my faith is, it's going to tailor content for me. It's going to give me content that is going to feed into my beliefs. And it causes these little echo chamber bubbles of different social interaction, where people start to get so hostile and tribalistic that they can't even have conversations with someone else who disagrees with them. And they almost see it as an attack in a sense. Now I'll talk about the symptoms here. I think the biggest symptom that has come out of all of this, and is really a part of this hostility, is we're in a technological generation where everyone's given a pedestal to talk. And a big issue that arrives with that is narcissism, and also nihilism as well. It's interesting, the two ends that I talk about, narcissism and nihilism. And there's an interesting combination. Nihilism is really derived, and nihilism, to define it for those who don't know, is pretty much like you want to be the center of attention 24/7. Everyone needs to know about you, and you need to have a voice in everything. And with social media, that problem kind of tends to arise because everyone's given that platform to speak. No matter if people are actually listening or not, it changes our way we interact, because rather than having our 2 to 4 friends we talk to and learn how to have real social interaction with, we're given a web page where we're the only one who can say something on our board. And every time there's some topic, there's a reply button for us to type into it. So I think that it causes that nihilism in a sense. And then the narcissism is really derived, I think, due to a lot of things. But more than anything, I think it's just because we're a very disconnected culture as much as we're very connected. It's a symptom that comes from depression and a lack of meaning and purpose. And I think that comes from not having real social relationships. It comes from not having good family or good beliefs or things to chase in the long term. That leads to sadness, and sadness can lead to resentment and anger, which again is kind of in line with narcissism or nihilism in that case. Sorry. Yeah.
It's a very good point, actually. It's a very good point. I like that. Okay. So here's one that you're going to like. Let's go back to crypto a little bit. Advice for hodlers that got wrecked.
And I hate to laugh about that because I'm feeling the pain too. I've still been exposed in crypto. Yeah. It's funny because like, many people think like, oh, DataDash sold the top or something. I'm like, no, still here. Like,
I knew I had to. I knew I had to. All the way down to 15 to 12, even at 11. I'm like, you got to sell, man. You just, you know what the problem was? I fell in love with them.
That's what everyone says. Yeah.
I did not want to not have them. And I don't know if it's a mental condition or whatever. I might have to seek help one day, but I did not sell, even though I advised people to sell.
Yeah, I knew I had to exit out of my altcoin positions, which I told my audience on my channel. I was like, guys, the altcoin run up was pretty much running to an end. This is ridiculous. It can't go on forever.
I heard you, man. I didn't listen.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I mean, I to be fair, the one thing I didn't do is I didn't cash out, and there was a reason for that. I knew that the market was ready for a pullback, but not only, again, like you said, I kind of fell in love with crypto in a passionate basis, but along with that, I would have felt really wrong cashing out right at the peak, as I just spent this whole past year doing a cryptocurrency channel. So there's a big kind of moral toss up for me personally, and I've talked to my audience about that before, but in regards to those who have hodled, again, going back to that investment perspective, if you realize the value in the space, you can always do what's known as averaging down. I'm not recommending you do it. You can look into it and see if you value it. But for an average daily investor, this space is still so early on. So what you can do with these lower prices now, with more than 50%, actually it's 70% discount on most cryptocurrencies, some down 90%. Yeah, 90, 95%. If you really like that protocol you invested in, man, you're really going to love it at a 95% discount. If you're willing to
connect now.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, not BitConnect. That's a no-go. That's the only financial advice I'll give. No BitConnect. But in regards to with just generally in crypto, if you really believe in the vision of, say, Cardano or Neo or Bitcoin or Litecoin, whatever your reason may be for liking something. Again, it's kind of like people always joke, like if you liked something at this price, you'll love it at this, you'll love it down 95%. Like if you were willing to pay for it back then, if you still believe in that value, why not pay for it at a massive discount if you have some extra side cash, So again, you have to assess that for yourself. I'm not giving out financial advice in that sense, but that's what I like to do. I've averaged down in this bear market. I've added some projects that I like, and again, focused on the currency plays. And I'm still doing my research. I'm still seeing if there's better plays out there. And as always, again, try to do as best as I can.
I doubled up. The only problem was I doubled up a couple of months ago.
Oh no! So a little too early. Yes, I would say for people who are looking to average down, to make sure that there's optimal standards. So a support level, for example, Bitcoin's been holding at 6K for many times in the past. So I felt confident every time it reaches 6K that I tend to add. And then I'd set a stop loss at 5,800. If it continues to break through, if it goes to 5,800, it's probably going to go down to 5,000. So in that case, I'm still secure, but I'm averaging down. I'm taking that opportunity. That's historically proven to be a pretty good.
I have a question there, though. If something keeps hitting a peak at some point it should break it. Doesn't that also, if it's down at the bottom, if it keeps on hitting it, doesn't that mean it can also break down?
Yeah. So with Bitcoin's price right now, there's different people who've done different forms of TA, but or technical analysis. But generally speaking, with Bitcoin, what we're seeing right now is what's known as a descending triangle. It's a very basic technical pattern where you have a flat, or actually, I'll just do it this way: flat level of price action. So this is the area where people keep buying, and that's at 6,000. And then you have a declining level of resistance. So each time the peaks are getting smaller. A lot of people see that as a bearish signal because you're making lower highs every time. You're still holding the support, but every time you're getting more and more narrow to where the resistance is going to press down at the end of the triangle, right? Well, what we've seen with Bitcoin is that now, I actually just did a video on this today, Bitcoin has actually moved out of the descending triangle, and it didn't have a flash sale below 6,000. It dipped to like 5,900, I think, at one point, but outside of that, it came back up every time, and it actually started to trend outside of that technical pattern. So it's very likely that if you come out from that line of resistance and your price still holds, that means you're most likely going to have a breakout. But again, it is very tended. You're right on that. It just took how it is on a rising triangle. In this case, it's a bullish signal because you keep on testing that level and you squeeze it out in a sense. Like it's like almost the price is coiling in and then it breaks out. I'm doing all my little hand gestures, but it's a good way to kind of visualize it. Like thinking about why subjectively that simple technical pattern has some kind of merit. It has to do with the momentum of price and where it's saying it wants to go. So, yeah, I would say usually it's a bearish signal, but with how Bitcoin has reacted in it, and it hasn't broken below 6,000, it's very interesting how it's actually kind of played the opposite.
Plus the fundamentals with backed and the actual timing. It's the end of October and everything. I would give it a 60% up as well. I'm just not sure because I'm not that good, but I'm doing nothing until I see it do something.
Yeah. I'm excited to see backed and all the institutional kind of factors come into play, possibly an ETF in the next year. I think it's much more reasonable. I learned kind of the complexities that go into making an ETF later on. So that's kind of why I rewired my prediction and stuff. Obviously, is 2018 summer's coming to a close, so it was about time I did it. But yeah, I think that in 2018 we could very well see some really interesting stuff, and we might see some of that already start to build up in 2018.
I hope so. Yeah, it'll make me feel better.
There you go.
It's just easier to be. It's just easier. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay, so where do you think crypto is going right now? I'm not talking about direction. I'm talking about in general where it's going. Yeah.
Well, I like to step away from price action because I think over time price will increase for most cryptocurrencies. Some will go away and never come back. But for the ones that are around and stuff, I look at really the currency plays, as I've stated, and it's so interesting to me. Nothing drives me more as someone in this space than seeing what's going on in Venezuela. And when I see that cryptocurrency isn't just being used as a speculative asset, I see people in a very dire financial situation who 10 years ago, if this would have happened, they would have no solution to turn to. The Venezuelan bolivar, to put it simple for those who aren't fully aware on it, the Venezuelan bolivar, the currency that the Venezuelan people use, is going through hyperinflation. It's been mismanaged by Nicholas Merton, who's the president of Venezuela. And basically, the currency has become so devalued that they've lost their purchasing power, their ability to buy goods and services, because now the price of goods are millions of dollars in the currency, and they don't have that. And along with that as well, they don't have a way to switch to dollars. So if they have the Venezuelan bolivar and they say, okay, you know what, I'll put it in US dollars because US dollars are stable. You can't do that because they have something implemented known as capital controls, which restrict the ability to trade other currencies for your base currency on foreign exchange markets. So you're left with possibly having the opportunity to have gold and silver to store your value. But gold and silver, one, can be seized easily. And second off, it doesn't make a good payment solution. So you need something that can store value, that is immutable, censorship resistant, allows for peer-to-peer transactions. Wait a minute. I think we're starting to get a matching pair here.
Yeah.
And that's where cryptocurrencies come in. And I've started to see what Dash has done. And I'll admit, I'm envious of them. They've taken upon the opportunity. Some people would say it's opportunistic. I think it's absolutely on point. It's a perfect match. Dash has started to market in Venezuela, and they've gotten, to give you perspective, just the kind of growth that they're seeing. From January to February of this year, in 2018, they had like 30 or 40 new merchants that started accepting Dash. pretty impressive for one country across the world and for one cryptocurrency. In August to September, they added, I think, around anywhere from 800 to 900 merchants in the same year. So it shows you that you've got that exponential curve coming into play for cryptocurrencies. And that to me is very fascinating. That's the kind of stuff that gets me up and says, oh, this is, and give it a year or two, and this is going to be mainstream. People are going to actually be using this in emerging markets. And hopefully, if the dollar loses value or stability or trust, hopefully in America one day we could see crypto being used. But I think in the West, it's going to be seen as a speculative vehicle for a while. It's more of a store value.
I think it's going to coexist. Okay, we talk a lot about the good things cryptocurrency can bring, but what about the bad things? Don't you think it can actually mean more control? Don't you think it could actually turn into something else?
Oh, yes, because a lot of people don't understand the values of cryptocurrencies, the real value of why blockchain and, why we need immutability, why we need to remove third parties in a lot of cases. I've seen it in the ICO space more than anything. The initial token distribution, the lack of real ownership or value behind some of these ICOs and the amount of capital they're raising. Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's a ton of centralized aspects. Most of the protocols out there in the crypto space aren't decentralized. They're not trustless, and they don't have any serious plans in the next 2 or 3 years to do that. If it was for a few weeks or a few months, that's understandable. You've got to have a good, solid, centralized group of people building out something, and then it has to become distributed once it's finalized. But yeah, I think people just don't have the value for those things. And because they don't, and they just are purely speculating and trying to put things on the blockchain, like put this industry on the blockchain, that's $1 trillion. I think people have dollar signs in their eyes. That's what's really going to hold back the space and is the danger. I'm not worried so much. Some people say, oh, cryptocurrency is used in black markets for drugs and things like that. There was an estimate. The only real serious estimate that's been done is that there's about $1 million in daily volume of crypto being used for purchasing drugs. And I know that sounds like a lot, but really in the grand schemes of black markets, that's minimal. If you were to multiply that by $365 million, drug markets are an $100 billion market. Last time I checked, it's massive worldwide. So cryptocurrencies, criminals aren't using cryptocurrencies or average.
It's not like they're gonna stop selling drugs if cryptocurrencies.
People.
I mean, come on.
Crypto didn't start that. Crypto doesn't make.
Come on.
That's a good point. Crypto isn't the thing that propelled the drug market to exist. And there's something that's much more untraceable: cash, which works much better. What most criminals use.
I'm actually worried about about cash not being used at all, and I'll tell you why, Nicholas. I don't think there's a problem with cryptocurrencies per se, but I do think there's going to be a war between cryptocurrencies and bank cryptocurrencies at some point, because they're going to want to control us. If I take it religiously, they're probably going to win at some point. If I take it in, whatever, we don't know what's going to happen. But I do believe that there will be used somehow for control and less freedom at some point. I just don't know if this is like in 100 years or 1,000 years, or 20 years. Don't know.
I'd place money that it'd be much sooner, and that's going to be the downfall of it. So, interestingly enough, a lot of people don't know. Before there was a U.S. dollar, a standard U.S. dollar that everyone utilized. There was a variety of banknotes. Banks, for example, it would be like, for example, J.P. Morgan or Wells Fargo or Bank of America having their own dollar notes. And people would use them and they would exchange them. It was just a big pain, right? It's kind of like in the crypto space. We can't make up our mind. Is Litecoin the best? Is Monero the best? Is Bitcoin the best? Whatever it is. It's interesting how similar it is to the traditional system. There wasn't one standard US dollar. And we're going to get that with cryptocurrencies. There is going to be central bank cryptocurrencies. There's probably going to be Bank of America's cryptocurrency. There's going to be a variety of different cryptocurrencies created by companies, by financial entities. Here's the thing, though. If Bank of America wants to go out and build another Bitcoin that is trustless and decentralized, I'd give thought to it. Yeah, sure. Why not? But if they create the Bank of America coin and they control it and they can censor my transactions and they charge me massive fees, like they do with wire transfers, and if they for example, control 80% of the supply and can manipulate the market and all that kind of stuff, then no, of course I'm not going to use it. And I think people wake up to it. It's why Bitcoin slowly but surely is gaining adoption, and why in emerging markets compared to, say, in the West, in the United States, why we don't value crypto, but people in Venezuela, why they value crypto. They've experienced it. They've seen their value vanish. And it's like in the early 1900s, again, with the runs to the bank, that was a huge issue when we had all these separate currencies. When banks mismanage and people run to the bank and they can't find their money, if that's your life savings, you're surely going to care about immutability and censorship resistance and removing third-party control over your money.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see which side people take. I mean, it's going to be interesting. Why do you, and I know you touched on this, but why do you think cryptocurrency is succeeding? And I know we just said it, but let's just summarize it up a little bit.
Yeah. I think cryptocurrency is succeeding because for the first time in history, we have a way to store value globally, and no one can, people could technically maybe seize your cryptocurrency if they put a gun to your head, to put it lightly, I guess. But
from which wallet?
Exactly. Right. Yes. I don't have my private key. I don't know where it went. But anyways, I think having a digital ledger that is immutable and censorship resistant and being able to store value in that's extremely impactful. Again, it's very telling that Bitcoin had a kind of a dark beginning. For example, we were talking about the use for drugs and everything like that on the Silk Road. That's exactly how the internet got started. It was used for illicit activities. Yeah. It was basically a bunch of nerds and speculators getting involved with something, and it's tended that those people tend to find the value much sooner. And I think over time, crypto is going to bring a lot of good to the world because, above all, I'm someone who comes from a finance background, and I understand the negatives of the central banking system. I think cryptocurrency is succeeding because for the first time in history, we have a way to store value globally, and no one can, people could technically maybe seize your cryptocurrency if they put a gun to your head, to put it lightly, I guess. But
from which wallet?
Exactly. Right. Yes. I don't have my private key. I don't know where it went. But anyways, I think having a digital ledger that is immutable and censorship resistant and being able to store value in that's extremely impactful. Again, it's very telling that Bitcoin had a kind of a dark beginning. For example, we were talking about the use for drugs and everything like that on the Silk Road. That's exactly how the internet got started. It was used for illicit activities. Yeah. It was basically a bunch of nerds and speculators getting involved with something, and it's tended that those people tend to find the value much sooner. And I think over time, crypto is going to bring a lot of good to the world because, above all, I'm someone who comes from a finance background, and I understand the negatives of the central banking system. There's not only the mismanagement of monetary policy, but the fact that currency in the traditional sense is debt-based. And that extracts a lot of value from the world. It gives banks a lot of authority and a lot of profit making in the process off of nothing but just having the authority to print money. But when you remove that and you dilute that value back into the actual currency supply like Bitcoin does, it's the reason why Bitcoin can have these parabolic run-ups, and it's actually quite rational and understandable. It's because there is never going to be more than 21 million Bitcoin. It's setting this presence of a deflationary currency, a currency that either has a diminishing inflation rate over time, or increase in the supply of the currency, or has a finite amount. And that right there is exactly what you need for store value. It's the reason why gold was so big, but it's even better than gold because gold has about a 1% to 2% inflation rate every year. There's about 1% to 2% gold being mined every year. We find new ways to get gold. There's gold mines across the world still being discovered, bought and sold, and processing gold ore. Bitcoin will never have more than 21 million, and I can send it anywhere across the world. To a millionaire, to someone all the way down in Venezuela, or someone sending a remittance payment back to their family in maybe India. Anyone gets that. Anyone gets that value, having something that's limited. So,
do you believe in holding gold as well alongside?
In a sense, yes. I'm more of a silver guy right now because the gold to silver ratio is making silver optimal. That's just my kind of investor perspective there. But Yeah, gold and silver, I think, well, they're obviously commodities that are needed in real world applications. They're finite. There's actual work that goes into discovering them. And again, there is a use case for them. So yes, I'm more optimistic on them right now, at least in the short term comparative to US equities, which I believe are kind of overvalued. This is the first year, 2018 has been the first year I've actually been bearish on US equities because the rules are starting to change. Interest rates are going up. Quantitative easing is going away, and now we're replacing that with quantitative tightening, where the Fed is selling off items from its balance sheet. So I think gold and silver are great hedges for that. And you can see in the past week or two, as the market started to sell off, gold and silver have done quite well.
You know why I think silver is not going up as much as people expect? And maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong on this. Have you ever tried to, 200,000 euros, let's say, of gold. Have you ever seen how much silver that is? How you can
A lot
move
more.
that from one place? Everyone's like, I'm buying silver so I can move them. How?
Yes. Silver it's interesting. Gold and silver, they're very much like how people view Bitcoin and Litecoin. Bitcoin is seen more as this digital store of value, and that I can go, I can send and wire $100 million across the world. People will find the block explorer and see these big transactions sent on the Bitcoin network. And that's what you need. You need an immutable network for that. For Litecoin, it's a little less secure because the block time is faster. It's about 2.5 minutes comparative to 10 minutes for Bitcoin. And for that, you have a little bit less security. And because of that, Litecoin is seen as this great thing where you can do more frequent transactions or cheaper transactions. So it's more of a payment solution. And that's the exact same paradigm that people have built for gold and silver. Gold is more as this store of value. Silver does as well. It stores your value, but people see it as something that I could actually, if we had a doomsday scenario, right, where everything just went wrong and we're back to the Stone Ages of gold and silver, where I could pay you for silver and services for goods or goods and services in that case. But gold would be very hard to do that. So that there's been a lot of companies like Gold Money that have built cards that will deduct gold from your account when you spend it somewhere, and it deducts like a Visa or debit card.
But in case of a war or something like that, you want to have gold to be able to get out the country, right? I mean, 5,000 euros of gold is what, this much?
Yes. So yeah, I even have I don't have it right here with me. I think I put it back, but I had a little gold coin that I talked about in my recent video talking about purchasing commodities.
Coins are always better than bars, by the way. I don't know if people realize this.
Yes.
Especially depending on which country you're in, you can always say they were inherited.
Yeah, there you go.
So
yes, it has an old date on it. Like, see, I got this from my grandpa.
Exactly. Yeah, with a gold bar, you can't because it has a date, right? So
it has an exact date on it. Yep, that's exactly a good point.
Last question: is there any advice you would like to give people watching us right now?
Oh man, I would say more than anything, I think a lot of people know me, and in some way, if there's people who admire me, it's because of one thing, and that's my channel. So seeing as the channel has been probably the biggest thing for me, my point of advice would be to say to not don't walk into things expecting the best. My channel came up, as we talked about at the beginning of this video, unexpected. Do things that you don't expect to bring good returns. Try new things. If I didn't try a million times, fail 999,999 times, and then find that one thing, if I wouldn't have tried that last time, I wouldn't have found it. You have to go through those experiences of failure, as I said in the past with creating my beverage company, and learning how to improve and get past those roadblocks, because you'll never be able to succeed at anything if you keep running into that. So learn to improve from failures, and again, try. The only way you can really do that is to try new things. So maybe I didn't word that best, but I think that's generally what's helped improve me, and always chase to do things for other people. That will help give you enough, I think, drive and dedication to achieve the things you want to achieve.
Nicholas, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate the video and being part of my new book that's coming out. Very excited about this. And yeah, if you guys have any questions you would like to ask Nicholas, go ahead and comment down below. I will try and persuade him to answer. And also check out all the links to his channel and his social media down in the description below this video. Thank you, Nick. Thank you guys for watching. And until next time, keep succeeding.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
Gotta do that click.
Yeah.